Crowds of people dressed in pink, holding candles, joining together in song. Gathering to honor 4-year-old Javeayah Harris. Many of the people here never met her.
I want this child to experience the love that she was not able to experience while she was on this earth. And as you can see, she's getting it.
In between the pink balloons and prayers, a call for the end of child abuse. Parents and grandparents and other community members volunteering to step up for anyone who's struggling to take care of their child.
I'm available. So please speak up. If you can help, please let people know that you are available for help.
I don't even know the baby, but I wish they could have gave her to me. I love kids. And harming a child, it's terrible.
Javeayah's grandfather also attended the event. He shared one simple message about his daughter, who sits behind bars after confessing to being responsible for Javeayah's death.
All I want to say is, I didn't raise her this way. I didn't do that.
Balloons covered the sky as the vigil came to an end. As neighbors say, they hope people will remember this event and Javeayah's name.
A lot of people don't even know the baby, and they're here for the baby, and that's good.
They say they want to prevent something like this from ever happening here again.
If you see something, say something. It doesn't matter if it's your family. It doesn't matter if it's your best friend. If you believe that child is getting neglected, you need to speak on it. And don't let it go. Stay on it. These children deserve better than what she got.
Tonight I'm making you two promises, and I need you to hold me to both of them. First, I'm going to walk you through exactly what the arrest warrants say happened to Javeayah Harris. Every detail sourced, nothing invented. Second, I'm going to show you the exact moment the official story collapsed, the moment a search for a missing child turned into a homicide investigation, with both parents behind bars. By the time this video ends, you'll understand why an entire community you've never heard of wore pink for a little girl they'd never met. And you'll understand why some of them are still asking the same question tonight. If you see something, why didn't anyone say something sooner? Let's start with who she actually was. Because before anything else, before any warrant, before any charge, Javeayah Harris was a real little girl with a real personality, and I need her to stay that way for you the entire time you're watching this. Javeayah Kamani Harris was 4 years old. Everyone who loved her called her Java. She wore her hair in braids, finished off every single time with pink beads that clicked together when she ran. And pink wasn't just something she liked. It was who she was, not the kind of favorite color a small child claims one week and forgets by the next. The specific, stubborn kind. The kind that shows up in the toys a child reaches for first. The kind that shows up in the clothes she insists on. The kind that, weeks later, shows up in the exact color an entire grieving community chooses to wear in her honor without anyone having to ask them to. She loved Minnie Mouse, not cartoons in general. Minnie Mouse, specifically, completely. The way 4-year-olds love one thing with their whole chest. The pajamas she had on the night her mother died. 911 were Minnie Mouse pajamas. That single detail would end up in nearly every news report that followed, because it was the kind of small, human specific that made a stranger's daughter feel like somebody's daughter. She loved chickens. More specifically, she loved the chicken coop behind her family's home. Her own mother told the 911 dispatcher, in the middle of the worst phone call of her life, that it was usually where I find her every day. Sit with that phrase for a second. A 4-year-old with a favorite outdoor spot, a routine, a place that was hers because she returned to it again and again, like it belonged to her. She talked, and she talked well, and this mattered enough to her father that he brought it up to a camera crew without anyone asking him to. She talks good. She talks better than me, he said, pushing back against early reports describing her as nonverbal. There had been some family discussion that Java might be on the autism spectrum. No formal diagnosis had ever actually been made. Her mother described her, in that same breath, as very smart, as someone who could carry a full conversation. She was, by her father's own description, friendly to everybody. She said hello to strangers the way small children do before the world teaches them it isn't always safe to. It wasn't that she didn't understand what a stranger was, it was that she simply never developed the instinct to pull away from one. If you want true crime told this carefully, real facts, real humanity, no shortcuts, subscribe right now. Because what I'm about to walk you through is going to be difficult to sit with. Here's the detail that makes everything else about this case almost unbearable to hold. The night Javeayah's mother called 911, she was 39 weeks pregnant, full term, due any day, any hour, any breath. Less than 24 hours after she reported her daughter missing, she went into labor and delivered a healthy baby girl. A sister came into this world one single day after her big sister's name first appeared on a missing persons bulletin. I need you to hold that image steady in your mind, because everything I'm about to tell you will ask you to carry it alongside facts that are genuinely difficult to hear. And through every one of them, I need Javeayah to stay a little girl to you, not a case number, not a headline, a little girl who loved pink beads and a chicken coop and was, by every account, worn to a world that did not deserve her warmth. To understand exactly how this case unraveled, you have to hear what was said the night Javeayah disappeared, before anyone knew what investigators would later allege. Let's go back to the beginning. July 1st, a regular summer evening in a rural part of South Carolina. Only confirmed facts from here forward, nothing else. Javeayah's mother, Michelle Herring, picked up the phone and called 911. Her voice on that call would later be picked apart by an entire nation. But that night, it was just a mother describing what should have been an unremarkable evening. Here's Promise 1, delivered in full. This is everything that is actually documented about that call. Herring told the dispatcher she'd been inside the house cooking dinner while Javeayah played outside in the yard. She said she'd checked on her daughter periodically throughout the evening. At one point, she said, Javeayah asked if she could stay outside a little longer before coming in for the night. A small, completely ordinary negotiation that plays out in backyards across this entire country, every single evening, in every single family. Herring said yes, on one condition: come inside once it starts getting dark. She described running Javeayah's bath water in preparation for the evening routine. Bath, then bed. She described dinner still cooking on the stove. Small, domestic, forgettable details, the kind that only matter in hindsight, that together painted the picture of a completely unremarkable night. Interrupted partway through, when she went back outside to bring Javeayah in, she told the dispatcher her daughter was simply gone. I can't find my baby, she said, her voice breaking on the call. She was outside playing, and I came out here after cooking dinner a little bit, and I'm looking for her, but I don't see her nowhere. She described searching on her own before she ever picked up the phone. The chicken coop first, the place Javeayah went every single day, then the wooded path behind the property where the family sometimes walked their dogs. She told the dispatcher Javeayah knew that path well. She said she'd walked it herself, calling out before making the call. She gave a full physical description without being asked. Pink Minnie Mouse pajamas, pink beads and braided hair. She gave the dispatcher a window of time. No more than 20 to 30 minutes, she said. Since she'd last laid eyes on her daughter, she raised something else, entirely unprompted. She told the dispatcher she felt uneasy about certain people who walked a path near the house, people she associated with drug activity in the area. She and her husband had only just purchased the property. She said she wasn't yet familiar with the surrounding area. That was the story the public heard first. A 4-year-old, gone in under half an hour, last seen near a chicken coop, in a family still learning the lay of their own land. For a period of time after that call, Javeayah was treated exactly as that story suggested. A missing child. Search teams moved in. Volunteers walked the woods. A community that had barely met this family began organizing around her name during this exact window, while Javeayah was still officially a missing child and not yet the subject of a homicide investigation. Her father sat down for an interview with a local news crew. He wasn't asked to describe his daughter's personality. He offered it anyway. "We raise her great, like she was a real smart kid," he told them. He pushed back specifically against early reports that had painted Javeayah as nonverbal. "Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. That's what she do," he said. "She talks good. She talks better than me." Hold on to that interview. Hold on to how confident he sounded, because none of it would end up matching what investigators eventually alleged. Here's where the story breaks in half. Arrest warrants later stated that both parents confessed. Read that again slowly, because it changes the entire shape of everything you just heard. Both parents confessed, not to losing track of a wandering child, to something else entirely. The documents allege that Herring caused severe head injuries to Javeayah through physical abuse. The warrants further allege that Herring disposed of Javeayah's body at another location entirely, nearly 2 hours from their home. The documents also allege that Jamari Harris knew about his daughter's injuries and did not seek medical attention for her. Michelle Herring was charged with homicide by child abuse. She was also separately charged with filing a false police report. Jamari Harris was charged with homicide by child abuse as well. Sit with the shape of that for a second. A missing child call that mobilized an entire search effort. Volunteers walking through woods calling Javeayah's name, believing every second counted, believing she might still be found alive somewhere close by. And warrants that now allege the original story itself, the very story that sent those volunteers into those woods, was constructed after something had already happened. That's not a detail. That's the entire architecture of this case collapsing at once. So here is exactly where the confirmed facts leave us, laid out plainly, without embellishment. A 911 call describing an ordinary summer evening. A 4-year-old who allegedly asked for a few more minutes outside. A missing child search that consumed the community's attention and resources. And arrest warrants alleging that the woman who made that call, the same woman searching those same woods with her own voice breaking on the phone, already knew exactly where her daughter was. Every single fact I just gave you came from the original 911 call. Official arrest warrants, or on-camera interviews given by the people involved. Nothing in this chapter is speculation. Nothing is rumor. This is the record. Bridge. Every fact you just heard is confirmed. What comes next is where the official story stops matching what investigators say actually happened. Here's promise to, and this is the contradiction sitting at the very center of this entire case. A grieving mother, frantically searching for her missing daughter, and a mother who investigators allege caused her daughter's fatal injuries, and then hid her body 2 hours away. Those two women cannot both be real. They cannot both have existed in that house on the same night. And according to the warrants, only one of them actually did. It was not the one the public heard on that 911 call. I want to walk you through exactly how this story changed, piece by piece, because the shift didn't happen all at once. It happened in stages, each one more disorienting than the last. 5 specific points, laid out in order. Number 1. The original 911 call described a completely normal evening. Dinner cooking on the stove, bathwater running, a child playing outside with her mother's permission, negotiating for a few extra minutes before bed, the way children do everywhere, every single night. Number 2. Herring told the dispatcher she had already searched the property herself before ever picking up the phone, describing specific locations Javeayah liked to go, calling out her daughter's name along a path the family knew well. Number 3. Arrest warrants later alleged that Herring caused severe head injuries to Javeayah through physical abuse, not that Javeayah wandered off into the woods, not that a stranger took her, that her own mother caused the injuries that led to her death. Number 4. The warrants allege Herring disposed of Java's body at a location nearly 2 hours away in a remote, rural stretch of South Carolina near the Fairfield and Chester County lines, an area law enforcement would only learn about after that alleged confession. Number 5. Herring was separately charged with filing a false police report, which means the entire missing child account, the one that launched a search effort, the one that pulled volunteers away from their own families to walk unfamiliar woods calling out for a stranger's daughter, is alleged to have been fabricated from the very beginning. 5 points, stack them together, and they describe something almost impossible to fully absorb, an entire search effort built from the ground up on a story investigators say was never true. Once that alleged confession came in, everything changed in a matter of hours. Law enforcement stopped searching the woods behind the family's home. They redirected, instead, toward a location Herring had allegedly named, an access area near Rocky Creek Lake on the Catawba River, remote, rural, nearly 2 hours from where Javeayah had last been seen alive. By the public record, a local news crew made that same drive and described it this way: winding roads, trees. At one point, they lost cell service entirely. No stores, no neighborhoods, just distance and silence, and the growing understanding of exactly what that distance meant. One investigator, a man with 37 years in law enforcement behind him, stood in front of cameras and said something that stopped an entire newsroom cold. In my 37-year career in law enforcement, I have never ever heard of anything so horrific. 37 years. Think about everything a person sees in 37 years of that work. And this is the case he singled out as the worst of it. That same official delivered another piece of information that landed like a physical blow to everyone following this story because of what investigators had uncovered. He said it was unlikely that the entirety of Java's body or any additional remains would ever be recovered. We had all hoped and prayed to find her body, he said. But with the information we've uncovered, that's simply not possible. Read that sentence again. An entire community had prayed specifically for the chance to recover a 4-year-old's body, so her family could have something to bury, and an experienced investigator had to stand in front of cameras and say that even that might not be possible. I need to pause here and be very precise and very responsible with you, because a case like this one attracts enormous emotional weight, and it would be easy to let that weight blur the line between what's confirmed and what isn't. So, let's be exact. The confessions are confirmed. They come directly from official arrest warrants, filed by law enforcement, part of the public record. The charges are confirmed: homicide by child abuse for both parents, filing a false police report for the mother. What is not fully detailed in the public record is the complete account of what happened inside that home in the hours before that 911 call was ever placed. The warrants tell us what investigators allege occurred. They do not yet give the public every single detail of exactly how. That distinction matters, and I'm not going to blur it for you just to make this story feel more complete than it currently. So take a moment and hold the full shape of this chapter. A mother's voice, cracking with fear on a recorded call, describing a search through familiar woods for a daughter she says she cannot find, and running underneath that exact same night. According to warrants filed weeks later, an entirely different and far darker sequence of events already in motion. Both versions of that night cannot be true at the same time. Only one of them ever actually happened, and based on what's now been formally alleged, it was not the version the world heard first. If you'd been the dispatcher on that original 911 call, knowing nothing else, what's the one detail that would have made you pause? Tell me below. I read every comment on cases like this, because the contradictions in this case don't end with the mother's phone call. Javeayah's father spoke on camera, too, confidently, warmly, defending his daughter's intelligence, to a room full of strangers, with cameras pointed at his face. And that interview happened only days before he was formally charged in connection with her death. That contradiction deserves its own careful look, because it might be the hardest one in this entire case to sit with. A father defended his daughter to news cameras, warmly, without hesitation. Days later, he was charged in connection with her death. That contradiction deserves its own look. Let's talk directly about what has actually been alleged against each parent, and just as importantly, what remains separate from that. Jamari Harris was 23 years old, while Javeayah was still officially considered a missing child. Before any charges existed, before the public had any reason to suspect what was coming, he sat down for an on-camera interview and described his daughter without anyone prompting him to. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. That's what she do, he said, describing her manners, her personality, the way she carried herself around adults. He pushed back, specifically and firmly, against reports calling her nonverbal. She talks good, he insisted. She talks better than me. There was warmth in that interview. There was pride. A father, publicly, defending his daughter's intelligence to strangers while she was still, as far as the public knew, simply lost somewhere near her own backyard. Days later, arrest warrants alleged that he knew about injuries Javeayah had sustained and failed to seek medical attention for her. He was charged with homicide by child abuse. I want you to sit with that contradiction. The way I've had to sit with it while researching this case. A father on camera, warmly defending his daughter's character, and, according to warrants filed only days afterward, a father who investigators allege already knew she had been seriously injured and did not get her the help she needed. Those two images do not fit together easily. Maybe they were never supposed to. Michelle Herring's alleged role goes further still. The warrants don't allege she failed to act. They allege she caused the injuries herself, that she then disposed of her daughter's body nearly 2 hours from their home, in a remote area she'd never publicly mentioned before, and that she then picked up the phone and reported her own daughter missing. If a detail like that just stopped you cold, that's exactly what the like button is for. It tells me you want cases like this covered with this much care, and it helps this video reach more people who need to hear Javeayah's story. Let me be precise again, because precision is the only thing I can offer you in a case this heavy. The confessions referenced inside those arrest warrants are confirmed. They exist in official, filed, public charging documents. What is not fully public is every detail of what happened inside that home in the hours leading up to the 911 call. The warrants tell us the allegations. They don't yet tell the public the entire sequence of that night, moment by moment. I won't pretend to know more than that record actually shows, and I won't ask you to either. Javeayah's grandfather stood at a community vigil held in her honor, surrounded by strangers in pink, and he said very little. What he did say has stayed with almost everyone who's followed this case since. All I want to say is I didn't raise anybody. I didn't do that. Think about what that sentence actually holds. A father in a single breath, grieving a granddaughter, and confronting the fact that his own daughter now sits behind bars, charged in that granddaughter's death. There is no framing, no camera angle, no amount of narration that makes a sentence like that easier to carry. And it wasn't only family who showed up for Javeayah. The community's response has been enormous, and it deserves to be part of this story too. Neighbors who had never once met this little girl organized a candlelit vigil in her honor. They wore pink. They released balloons into a South Carolina sky. One woman, standing in that crowd, said something simple and devastating at the same time. I don't even know the baby, but I wish they could have gave her to me. I love kids, and harming a child, it's just terrible. Others used that same gathering to push something bigger than grief, a call to action, aimed at every single person standing there. If you see something, say something, one attendee said. It doesn't matter if it's your family. It doesn't matter if it's your best friend. If you believe that child is getting neglected, you need to speak on it and don't let it go. Stay on it. These children deserve better than what she got. That's the tension this entire case leaves hanging in the air, unresolved. A community, standing together, insisting they would have stepped in, would have said something, would have noticed, set directly against a household where, according to formal warrants, the two people who were supposed to be closest to Javeayah, the two people whose entire job it was to protect her, are now the two people accused of taking her life and then hiding what they'd done. Do you actually believe a community's call to say something changes real outcomes in cases like this one, or does it only ever come after? I want your honest answer in the comments, not just the easy one. So, if both parents are now formally charged, both facing homicide by child abuse, what is actually left unresolved in this case? What's left for a community, and for a family, and for all of us watching from the outside to still sit with? So, if both parents are now charged, what's actually left unresolved in this case? And what happens now to a family torn apart from every direction at once? Let's bring everything we know back together, because a case like this one deserves a close that's honest, not one that pretends to have answers it doesn't. Michelle Herring is charged with homicide by child abuse and with filing a false police report. Jamari Harris is charged with homicide by child abuse. Both cases remain active in the South Carolina court system. As this video goes up, investigators have said publicly that it's unlikely Javeayah's body will ever be fully recovered, given what was uncovered over the course of this investigation. Sit with that for a second, because I don't think it's something we should rush past. Somewhere, right now, there is a family that may never get the one thing so many grieving families are given: a body to bury, a grave to visit, a physical place to put their grief. What remains unresolved in this case isn't whether these charges exist. They're confirmed. They're on the record, filed formally through arrest warrants, part of the public court system. What remains unresolved is the complete, moment-by-moment account of what actually happened inside that home before a single phone was ever picked up and dialed. I want to be fully honest with you about something, because I think you deserve that after sitting through all of this with me. This is not a case built on internet speculation, or anonymous tipsters, or screenshots nobody can verify. The confessions referenced in these warrants are what separate this case from so many others I've covered on this channel. That's different. That matters. But some parts of this story will likely remain incomplete forever, no matter how the court proceedings unfold from here. A full physical accounting of what happened to Javeayah's body is one of them. That's not a cliffhanger I'm building for engagement. That's simply where the facts, as they currently stand, leave us. Her grandfather's words are still the ones that sit heaviest with me. Out of everything in this entire case, I didn't raise anybody. I didn't do that. That sentence isn't a call for anyone to look away from accountability. It's not an excuse, and it was never offered as one. It's a reminder of something people often forget when a case like this goes viral online. Grief in cases like this one never stays contained inside a single household. It spreads outward to grandparents standing at vigils they never expected to attend, to a newborn sister who will grow up carrying a story she was never conscious enough to remember living through, to an entire community of strangers who show up in pink for a little girl they never once got the chance to meet. So, here's my closing question for you tonight, and I want you to actually sit with it before you scroll away. When a community stands together and insists they would have said something, would have stepped in, would have noticed something was wrong, what actually needs to change so that becomes true before a tragedy happens, instead of only after? Would more neighbors checking in on families who are new to an area change an outcome like this one? Would earlier medical evaluations, earlier honesty, earlier intervention from the people closest to a child change anything at all? I don't have a clean answer for you. I'm not sure anyone fully does. But I believe the answer to that question matters infinitely more than any single case file, any single arrest warrant, any single headline. This story was never really about picking apart the tone of a mother's voice on a recorded 911 call word by word, looking for cracks. It was never about debating how convincing a father sounded in a news interview, given days before charges were filed against him. Those are just the fragments the public record left behind for us to examine. This was about a 4-year-old girl who loved pink, beads that clicked together when she ran. A little girl who had one specific spot behind her house, a chicken coop that was entirely hers because she returned to it day after day. The way children build their own small worlds inside the bigger one adults control. A little girl who was, by every single account from everyone who knew her, won to a world that had not yet taught her it wasn't always safe to be. She was one day away from becoming a big sister. One single day. Somewhere tonight, there's a baby girl who will grow up only knowing her sister through photographs, through court documents, through a story told by strangers on the internet trying to get it right. That warmth Javeayah carried, the kind that made her say hello to people she'd never met, deserved protection. It deserved a home where a chicken coop was the most dangerous place she'd ever have to think about. It didn't get that, and no amount of pink balloons, no vigil, no viral news segment can ever give that back to her now. Beyond thoughts and prayers, what do you think actually needs to change so fewer children end up as the subject of a case like this one? I want real answers in the comments tonight, not just outrage. Outrage doesn't protect the next child. If you want to know the moment this case moves through the courts, when trial dates are set, when more of the record becomes public, subscribe and turn on notifications right now. I will bring you every update the same way I brought you this story tonight. Confirmed facts only, never speculation dressed up as truth. Javeayah deserves that much from every single person telling her story. Javeayah Kamani Harris was 4 years old. She loved pink and Minnie Mouse and chickens, and she talked more and better than almost anyone gave her credit for. She deserved so much more than what she got. Rest easy, Javeayah.